So the Indiana Pacers take game 3 of the finals, and this game was close to the very end, and I do think that this could go into 7 still. We could still see a 7th game from OKC and the Pacers. Because the last time the Pacers had a home game on their home court in the NBA Finals was the 2001 Finals. Uh, Reggie Miller versus Kobe and Shaq. And at that time, as a point, I think Larry Bird was the coach at that time. And I definitely think that this will still go into 7. Because if the Pacers win game 4, we could all say right now that it's over. It's over if the Pacers win game 4. That is just what it is. It's over if the Pacers win game 4 because, like, you hold Shea to 24 points. You had Lou Dort show up. Lou Dort put in a couple of shots. J-Dub put in 26. Like, you have, like, Chet put in 20 this game. Wiggins put up no points in this game. Like, OKC had, like, a good rhythm going. And when you don't have a good rhythm going like the pace, like OKC from game 1 to game 2, and you let the Pacers somehow win game 1 and game 3, there's a big question mark there. There is such a big question mark because the question mark is about this OKC's team. Can they win the finals? This is their second time in the finals that we have seen OKC in the finals this year. They have the MVP and Shea. They have a good roster around them. A good team. Sam Pressly, the GM, has done a good job with OKC. I can say that. But when you look how the Pacers play, the Pacers aren't going to back down. Let me just say that, most importantly. When you have more steals like the Pacers did, those turnovers that we saw in the game from OKC isn't how OKC plays basketball. That isn't the way that OKC plays basketball. That isn't the way that OKC plays. The way that OKC Thunder plays basketball is a style of give the ball to Shea and let him spread the floor. And we've seen Shea do it before against the Minnesota Timberwolves, against the Denver Nuggets in Game 7. We've seen him do something like that before. Like this game in Game 3 was very close to the very end. Like at some point, it was like 79-79 with 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. And you just let the Pacers roll all over you. Like, you can say that with Shea being the MVP. Shea could have gotten the MVP last year as well, in my opinion. But when you have Chet, when you have J-Dub, when you have Hutchinson, when you have Wiggins, when you have Isaiah Joe on this OKC team, there is a lot of questions. Like Isaiah Joe only played 4 minutes last night and put in 6 points. This OKC team looked kind of lost and kind of lost. Like, this could still go into 7. This could honestly go into 7. Because there is no way that the Pacers should have just ran over the Thunder like this, because the thing about the Pacers is that they traded for Siakam. They traded for Halliburton. They traded for Naismith. They drafted Miles Turner. They drafted Mathurin. If you're going to let this Thunder team lose, if the Thunder lose somehow Game 4, it's basically over. But this is still probably going to go into 7. This is going into 7. There is nothing about that OKC can do. Because the way OKC played Game 2, I thought that they were going to come in Game 3 and play the same way. Because you can't come in Game 2, coming off a Game 2 win, and lose Game 3 and just let the Pacers run over them. Because we know the Pacers. OKC is 9-0 at home. 9-0 at home. And you're going to go on the road and lose a game to the Pacers. Let the Pacers take Game 1 with Halliburton on that shot. And then let the Pacers take Game 3. Now, Shea, on the other hand, I think if he does score 30, if he does score 40, you don't have to worry about that. Because other guys that Shea has on that OKC Thunder team is going to step up. They're going to step up. But when you look at how the Pacers won this game, like when OKC is coming into the Pacers arena with a 9-0 record, you know that this team isn't going to play around because they got Halliburton, who scored 22, 11, and 9. They got Siakam, who scored 21, 4, and 6. They got Thomas Bryant, who only played 3 minutes last night. I think the way that Indiana plays, they have good ball movement. They have a good roster around them. Like, Indiana, if they win this time, if they win, this will be their first championship. This will be their first championship if Indiana wins. Because we know that Indiana is a comeback team, and they're not going to be playing around game 4. They're not going to be playing around in game 5. Something has to change for OKC to get another game in this series. I don't know if it's adjustments. I don't know if it's watching the tape from game 1 to game 3 or the last 3 games. I don't know if it's that OKC has to somehow win a game here to stay in the series, because if you don't win a game for game 3, there is going to be questions. Because we know that OKC, when they lost the first time to the Heat, that in the finals, they let James Harden walk away. They let James Harden walk away for Serge Ibaka. I'm not saying that Serge Ibaka was a good NBA player. James Harden, when we look at his career, he won an MVP. But there are going to be questions about this OKC team going into the future. There are going to be questions on whether or not do OKC win another game in this series, or does the Pacers just win the last 2, and then we're sitting here in a couple of days from now saying, we're sitting watching and hearing every reporter, everybody talk about how the Pacers just won a championship. Because what this would mean for Indiana, what this would mean for the Pacers, is something that you can't replace, something that this team that OKC has. Because last night's game, like, when you have OKC turning the ball over a bunch of times, when you have the Pacers getting a bunch of steals, like, I think that game 2, when Alex Caruso stepped up to score 20, that wasn't enough. That was just, okay, they scored. Alex Caruso had 20. Shea played like the MVP that we seen him play before. Like, there's just a lot of questions. Every game that OKC loses, there's going to be questions. And every game that OKC wins, there's not going to be questions on how Shea is taking his game to another level, or how it's always going to be about how OKC finished with the best record in the NBA 2 years in a row, get to the conference finals 2 years in a row, get to the NBA finals this year. That's going to be the main factor of it, is that what if we're sitting here in a couple of days talking about how OKC, how the Pacers just won a championship? Because when we look at the Pacers roster, there's no Paul George, there's no Hibbert, there's no David West, there's no David West on this team. Like, we can go back and look at that Pacers team that went into the playoffs with Paul George every single year and say, well, they only got to the conference finals when the Pacers are playing their first NBA finals since 2000, since the 2000s. We going to talk about how the Pacers won this game and how Thompson's dunk played a big part of it, and how Halliburton showed up this game, and how the entire Indiana Pacers showed up. We're looking at this as just OKC. Like, we can go and see, like, you let OKC win the first quarter 32-24. You let the Pacers win the second quarter 40-28. You let the Pacers lose the third quarter 29-20. And you let the Pacers win the fourth quarter 32-18. Like, there's nothing that you can say except how the series has started and the series is going. If it's over in 5, if it's over in like 6 games, let's say OKC gets another game. For example, if OKC gets another game here in this series, it's going to be that series that we're going to be talking about, that we saw the greats in Michael Jordan, in Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Magic Johnson, all be in the finals. And this is a totally different finals where there's Halliburton, there's Shea, there's Chet, there's Alex Caruso again in the finals. We are going to look at that. We are definitely going to look at a big part of how OKC, if they get a game somehow, how OKC can get a game if you make adjustments. Because we've seen teams in the finals make adjustments like this. We've seen teams go and win the finals. If we could say this team can win a NBA Finals. We could say that a lot. We could say that the Pacers honestly won this game because they were on their home floor. The thing is that if OKC turns the ball over a bunch of times, if you let the biggest part of the Pacers was their bench last night. The biggest part of the Pacers, it was their bench last night, and how they got to the how they got to the how they got to the ball, how they played last night. Because when you let a Pacers team when you let a team like the Pacers outplay you or dominate you or just play incredible basketball or play insane basketball, there is something about that, because now OKC has to go back to the drawing board. They have to. And put a pin in game 3 and say, well, we lost this because of reasons why. Because we have seen from game 1 to game 3 how the Pacers played, and how from game 2 to game 3 how OKC played. Because if you're going to let Shea put up 24, 30, like I said before, that is going to play a good factor. If you let Shea go off for 40 or 50, that's going to play a factor. Shea could do that on a given night. But the factor is of this series is one thing. You can't turn the ball over a bunch of times like OKC did. You can't. That's the one thing, because we saw it from when the Pacers played the Knicks, how the Pacers in game 6 against the Knicks let the Knicks turn over the basketball 17 or 18 times. That I can't remember how many times the Pacers turn over the basketball. But when you see that and see how the Pacers last night let OKC turn the ball over a bunch of times, you have to say this team is not a good team because of the factor of how they're playing basketball. This wasn't a good game by OKC. This was a better dominating game for the Pacers, because that Thompson dunk, those turnovers play a big factor, and the Pacers win. But guys, sub if you're new, and never give up your dreams. And I hope all of you guys are safe out there and stay blessed.